thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, you guys. It is Monday, October 27th. And today is, oh, this is great. I love this one. National Civics Day.
Get into your civics.
Too bad they took civics.
There's not enough civics in this country.
Yes. That is very, very, very true. Very true. We need some more.
We mandated it in Florida a couple years ago.
Oh, is that right?
Students. We did.
Really?
Part of DeSantis's plan to increase civics and love of our country.
Bro, I'm so about that. I bring civics back, make civics great again. All day. It's also National Black Cat Day.
Yeah, because it's the week of Halloween.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. Well, let's see. What else is it today? It's also National American Beer Day. Shout out to American Beer.
Coors Light.
That's right.
Yeah, Coors Light. Not Bud Light, huh?
No.
No.
You know. Oh man. It's also U.S. Navy Day today. Shout out to everyone in the U.S. Navy.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
There you go. Go long.
Yeah. Big vessels. Did you see that? Did you see that social media post of that aircraft carrier that like basically like did a full turnaround in the water?
No.
Oh, bro, they posted it the other day. It was incredible what angle it was able to turn at. I was super impressed. I was like, man, those
are awesome.
Yeah.
What, did it just like turn on a dime?
It wasn't on a dime, but it was like for an aircraft carrier, it was on a dime.
I would imagine that they're probably more agile than you think they are.
Most definitely. Jesse, whatever you did, you fixed it.
I didn't do anything.
I don't know. Well, whatever you did, whatever happened, they just fixed it. It just went away.
It's my ginger magic.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Instagram, X, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website, www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. I guess it's not gone, Jesse. I still hear it. If you hear any type of echo coming through on YouTube, just let us know in the chat so we can try to fix this. But nonetheless. Man. You know, we got some shoot 'em up bang bang stories today. We got a few today. All different types of information in regards with that. But the Trump DOJ asked the Supreme Court for a delayed schedule in the case on marijuana users' gun rights. That's right. The Justice Department is asking the U.S. Supreme Court for more time to submit briefs in a case justices recently agreed to hear that concerns the constitutionality of a federal ban on gun ownership by people who use marijuana and other drugs. In a motion from the Trump administration that was sent to the court on Thursday, DOJ said there was mutual agreement between its attorneys and those representing the respondent in the case that the current deadline for briefs and reply briefs should be revised because of the press of other cases. Currently, the Justice Department is supposed to file its first brief with the court by December 4th, but it's requesting that be extended until December 12th, and that would push the respondent's deadline to submit a brief until January 20th. In a quote, if those extensions are granted, the reply brief would be due on February 19th, 2026, and both parties consent to this briefing schedule. U.S. Solicitor General D. John Sauer, an appointee of President Donald J. Trump, said in the motion. Oh, they fixed it. Great job, you guys. The Trump administration has routinely argued that the policy restricting gun ownership by people who use cannabis, even in compliance with state law, in quotes, targets a category of persons who pose a clear danger of misusing a firearm and should be upheld. Actually, you guys didn't fix it. I still hear it, but nonetheless. After several years of conflicting lower court rulings on related cases, justices on Monday granted cert in U.S. versus Hemp to settle the question of whether the ban, known as Section 922G3, is consistent with the Second Amendment. While the court on Monday also declined to take up a separate case on cannabis consumers' gun rights, there are still several others pending a decision from the justices. But the choice to take up Hemp in particular is likely welcome news to the Justice Department, which has consistently defended the firearm prohibition and specifically requested that SCOTUS review that case instead of alternatives. That could be related to the fact that the defendant is not only a marijuana consumer but also a user of cocaine who sold drugs in the past. So it's possible DOJ reasoned that he, in a less sympathetic face for the issue, and defendants in other cases were merely found in possession of both a firearm and marijuana. In June, the Solicitor General submitted a filing with the Supreme Court that said Section 922G3 complies with the Second Amendment and the statute targets a category of persons who pose a clear danger of misusing firearms, habitual users of unlawful drugs. That law bars their possession of firearms only temporarily and leaves it within their power to lift the restriction at any time. Anyone who stops habitually using illegal drugs can resume possessing firearms, Sawyer said. But notably, while the government mentions habitual users of illegal drugs 40 times in its filing, that word does not itself appear in 922G3, the language of the statute that prohibits anyone who is an unlawful user or addicted to any controlled substance from purchasing or possessing firearms or ammunition. In a separate August filing for the case, the Justice Department also emphasized that the question presented is the subject of a multi-sided and growing circuit conflict, they say. In seeking the court's grant of cert, the Solicitor General also noted that the defendant is a joint American and Pakistani citizen with alleged ties to Iranian entities and hostile to the U.S., putting him on the FBI's radar. Now that the Supreme Court has agreed to take up the case of Hemp, if justices declare 922G3 constitutional, such a ruling could mean that government wins in the remaining cases, and the High Court on Monday denied a petition for cert in the U.S. versus Cooper, while leaving pending decisions on U.S. versus Daniels and U.S. versus Sam. The justices were scheduled to discuss all of these cases in a closed-door meeting last Friday. The court also recently denied a petition for cert in another gun and marijuana case in U.S. versus Baxter, but that wasn't especially surprising as both DOJ and the defendants advised against further pursuing the matter after a lower court reinstated his conviction for being an unlawful user of a controlled substance in possession of a firearm. The number of federal courts in recent years have cast doubt on the legality of 922G3, finding generally that while the ban on gun ownership among drug users may not be entirely unconstitutional, there's scant historical precedent for such a broad restriction of Second Amendment rights on an entire category of people. Meanwhile, in recent interviews with Marijuana Moment, several Republican senators shared their views on the federal ban of gun possession by people who use marijuana, and while one saying that if alcohol drinkers can lawfully buy and use firearms, the same standards should apply to cannabis users. Well, I agree with that. And separately, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit last month sided with a federal district court that dismissed an incident against Jared Michael Harrison, who was charged in Oklahoma in 2022 after police discovered cannabis and a handgun in his vehicle during a traffic stop. That case has now been remanded to a lower court, which determined that the current statute banning unlawful users of marijuana from possessing firearm violates the Second Amendment and the Constitution. Well, I think they should also point out that Oklahoma has the best cannabis and gun laws in the entire country. And the lower court largely based his initial decision on an interpretation of a Supreme Court ruling in which the justices generally created a higher standard for policies that seek to impose restrictions on gun rights. And that ruling states that any such restriction must be consistent with historical context of the Second Amendment's original 1791 ratification. And the historical analogs that the Justice Department relied on to make the case that the ban is consistent included references to antiquated case law preventing Catholics, loyalists, slaves, and Indians from having guns. The circuit court, for its part, said that the government must show non-intoxicated marijuana users pose a risk of future danger to support the current policy. And this inquiry, which may involve fact-finding, is best suited for the district court. And then this article goes on and on and on, but you know, that's pretty much the crux of it. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. They're trying to stall us out on this case, you guys. They're about to give us our gun rights back, and they're trying to stall us out. I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say about this. You guys got to unmute.
It seems to me like there's a lot of political theater around cannabis right now on all sides.
Yes. I love a good kabuki theater.
Yeah, I'm not. It's very muddy. The waters are murky.
Well, it's a swamp, Jesse.
It's definitely the swamp, but unfortunately, the swamp is operating in Trump's camp right now, pretty heavily, and a lot of places actually, not just this one, but. The games with cannabis right now, they don't really make sense. I'm not really sure what's going on. It's starting to get kind of, like I said, it's just getting murkier. I can't see what the point is here. Why are we delaying this? And especially when there's in reference to the fact that 2 months ago, you said we're going to make a decision on cannabis in the next couple weys, and it's been a couple months.
Bro, that stops. You can't take that verbatim.
Let me finish.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying that it's like there's this theater going on where you said you were going to do this. Now it's been 2 months. Now there's other things going on. I mean, even the story I'm going to read about the attorney generals who are clearly hemp haters. There's a lot of interfacing things. I mean, and then you have the Truth Social post that Donald Trump put out about the ECS
CBD
system, and like, it's just like, which way are you going here, and what is happening? Because it's
Jesse,
you're going 2 steps this way and 2 steps that way, and I guess we're doing the Mississippi 2-step.
I'm gonna have to explain to you a little bit of how to understand Trump. Apparently.
I mean, please, because it just right now, like most things make sense.
Just because he said he was going to make a decision in 2 weeks, that doesn't mean that he was going to make a decision in 2 weeks.
No, I get that, but in relationship to everything else that's going on, it starts to make that statement look like BS.
Well, that statement was BS because he's going to make a decision. It's just not in that time frame. A decision is going to be made.
Yeah, a few weeks means somewhere between 2 and 32.
No. Few weeks means a few weeks. A few weeks, Jesse, in all reality means before the midterm elections.
Right, somewhere between 2 and 52.
Maybe actually a little bit more than 52, but yeah. It's a few.
Well, that would be almost exactly
right
52
now.
weeks.
Yeah. What's that, Michael?
No.
He's muted.
I was going to say about 53,
Yeah,
right?
he is muted.
Well, no, he said this about 6 weeks ago. No, I hear you, Michael. He said this about 6 weeks ago.
I can't hear him.
I hear him.
I can't.
You can't hear him?
Yeah, I was
Nope.
Yeah, he's mute.
Here, hold on. Maybe
Weird.
I might.
Weird. I hear Michael just fine.
Oh, he's muted on my soundboard. There you go.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Muted on my sideboard.
Fixed.
Yeah.
Oh, I mute. Oh,
If you hit the 3 dots on his,
fixed.
there you go.
All right. There we go.
Sorry, Michael. Say that again.
Now I'm back live.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I was just agreeing with you. 53 weeks is about next week from the next 26 election. We're October 27th. It's what?
Yeah.
November 3rd to November 4th.
Yeah.
So we're pretty close to there.
That's
I
a few.
Maybe this delay is related to what he's doing on the rescheduling level, because potentially maybe this would be moot as a result if they determined and did within the next 3 to 4 months, say, do something with the rescheduling aspect. Then maybe this issue is now it's not necessarily illegal as a Schedule 1 substance anymore. So what's the point of going after these gun rights cases besides the individuals who are maybe potentially facing incarceration as a result?
Well, I understand that, Michael, but don't you think they would have asked for a longer delay than just 2 weeks?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's going from December 6th to December 20th when the paperwork's going to be due. That's just 2 weeks.
But who knows?
I don't know. I'm not expecting any Schedule 3 news or determination one way or another until next October,
right?
for a year from now. They don't have to do anything.
Request.
They don't have to do anything.
Yeah, right. This is a request, and they could just the Supreme Court just could say, "Go F yourself. We're still doing it on our time frame."
Yeah, but
right?
the Supreme Court generally grants requests for attorneys.
You think it has something to do with the government shutdown, and that this is wrapped up in that?
No, I mean, I don't think so. But I will say this, that the reality is that the Democrats aren't going to vote to reopen the government until after November 1st, because that's when the Obamacare premiums go up, and they want to use that as a talking point to bash Republicans with. It's like, oh, look, they couldn't make a deal with them for so long, and this and this and that all of a sudden now your premiums have gone up, and so the Democrats want to use that as a talking point to try to garner support. But meanwhile, they want to pay for insurance for illegals.
Stuff that illegals gets is so amazing when they come in. They get full packages.
I know,
healthcare,
bro. It's insane. It's insane.
Food stamps.
Illegals have better health insurance than I have.
Way better, 1,000%, especially the first year.
Yeah.
My wife's Cuban, so she talks to a lot of people that come in, and even she's like appalled by how much money we give to people just that are illegally crossing our borders.
It's insane. It's insane.
It is insane.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts on this, Gary, before we move on to our next one? All right, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Auditory hallucinations.
Oh, man. And we are back, you guys. And, man, I got a story for you, Gary. You're going to love this, because the THC beverage boom faces a Missouri crackdown among regulatory concerns and safety risks. That's right. A new report shows that Missouri has the potential to pull in $75 million in annual THC drink sales, dependent on how state leaders and law enforcement respond to the fast-growing unregulated market. A recent economic study on THC beverages found that the industry has the potential to reach between $9.9 billion and $14.9 billion in national sales. In Missouri, where the product faces attacks from law enforcement, state legislators, and local governments who say it's part of a public health crisis, that potential is $75.4 million annually. In a quote, they say, "That's the potential if you normalize this and provide consumers with access nationally," said the economic analyst Bo Whitney, whose study titled The United States THC Beverage Report was released last month. Whitney is talking about products like the cans of low-dose THC seltzers that Missouri companies including Mighty Kind, Triple, and You Are Lit are producing. They're currently found in bars, restaurants, and stores like Randall's and Total Wine and Spirits. Whitney estimates that in 2024, actual sales nationwide were between $1 billion and $1.3 billion, with 76% of that being hemp-derived THC beverages and 24% being products sold in marijuana dispensaries. For the marijuana industry, the estimated $270 million in THC beverage sales in dispensaries only represented about 1% of the industry's overall total sales in 2024. Most brands average $2 million per year, and the study found while top brands can easily exceed $10 million or more in annual sales, Joshua Gaitis, owner of St. Louis-based Mighty Kind Co., which makes various kinds of hemp seltzers, says Whitney's numbers are in line with what he's seeing in the market. Mighty Kind was among the first THC beverage products in Missouri, and Gigaritis has seen many brands pop up over the last year, and now he said that competition to get products in bars and restaurants is full on, he says. In a quote, "It's a great sign of growth for the whole space," Gargidius said. "It's bringing awareness and credibility, and lots of brands are paying their lawyers to lobby for this. It's not just us and a couple of the brands anymore." In Missouri, THC beverages are legal but completely unregulated by any government agency, which means there's no age restriction on who can buy them, and distributors and retailers have self-imposed the same regulations they use on alcohol products by requiring testing, certification, and that buyers have to show ID that they're 21 or older. While the Missouri legislature attempted to pass regulations for THC beverages in the spring, the proposal drew heavy opposition and ultimately failed because it would have prohibited THC edibles, vapes, and other products from being sold outside of dispensaries. Catherine Hanaway, who was sworn in as Missouri's new Attorney General last month, has vowed to make it a top priority to utilize all vested authority in this office to attack the problem head on, said James Lawson, her Deputy Chief of Staff, and says, "Our focus is on the health and safety of Missourians," Lawson said. "This is an unregulated industry that makes untested, unknown substances available to the public without any oversight, including children, where we think it's particularly detrimental." But there's potential Missouri regulations coming because Whitney's report forecasts overall growth of THC beverages in 2025 to be at 25%. This would be more aggressive than the trajectory of the market. However, there is a tremendous amount of uncertainty at both the federal and state levels that could inhibit the growth potential of the industry, it states. And many are watching the debate in the U.S. Senate to potentially ban hemp THC products. And by the end of this year, Whitney anticipates there will be greater clarity on a regulatory framework for hemp-derived THC. And in 2026, there will be an acceleration of the growth. But currently, THC beverages are legal in 28 states and legal but restricted in another 9, according to the report. And they can only be sold in marijuana stores in 7 states, and they're illegal in 6 states. This spring, Stephen Bush, owner of Cray Distributing in the St. Louis area, was a key player in trying to get Missouri regulations passed for not only beverages, but for also edibles and vapes. And nowadays, THC liquor, a national brand, is a major item for his company, he said. But however, Bush ultimately opposed a bill he initially backed because the amendment proposal would have allowed for the continued sales of THCA flower. THCA flower, it looks just like weed, but it isn't weed, even though it really is weed, and people like to say. But however, in June, a former Missouri Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, sent several cases and cease and desist letters to companies selling THCA flower, threatening legal action if the companies continue to sell it. it. Bush said that the state lawmakers need to either pass legislation that regulates hemp-derived THC products this year or enact a total ban. And in a quote, they say, "That would impact me in a negative way, but I think we have to think in terms of customer safety and kids getting hold of these products," Bush said. "So yeah, if we can figure it out, then I think we need to then we need to ban it all, and I hope it doesn't come to that." But Rang Grangle, owner of UR Lit Beverage Company, has a hemp farm near Washington, Missouri, and that will soon be able to produce enough harvest to sustain his 2 THC businesses, he said, and he believes Whitney's numbers are promising. For the past 4 years, Rangel has been involved in stopping legislation that would require his beverages and edibles to only be sold in marijuana dispensaries, and that would ban his products because only items that come from licensed marijuana cultivators can be sold in dispensaries. But this year, Regal said he's excited about the initiative petition that would ask voters next year to allow marijuana and intoxicating hemp products to be sold in the same stores as alcohol and tobacco. And he hopes lawmakers at a minimum will pass requirements on age-gating child-proof packaging and making sure every package identifies who is the manufacturer and distributor. And this story goes on, but that's pretty much it for this story. And if you want to read the rest of it, you can read it on our website at www.high9news.com. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Gary, I know you love cannabis beverages.
Yes, well, it continues to amaze me when I hear read articles like this. They use words like unregulated and unsafe.
I know.
And I don't know where they get all that. I spend the majority of my day dealing with the regulations in the 50 states, whether it be for labeling, packaging, dosing, any number of issues that come up, registration and some.
Yeah.
So regulation clearly exists. Whether or not there's sufficient regulation and appropriate regulation in every state, that may be a separate discussion, but it is unregulated. And the unsafe moniker also is somewhat confusing, because please give me the evidence of unsafety, if that's a word. Where are we having people going to hospitals, dying, having episodes from too much hemp, too much THC? I'm not seeing that, and I don't know where the unsafety is. The children issue also is somewhat misleading, because the question on any product that needs to be age gated is, what is the retailer doing? I'll give you an example. I was in North Carolina this weekend in Chapel Hill for a fraternity brother reunion. North Carolina is a fascinating state because there's no adult use and there's no medical. But on Franklin Street, which is the main drag, you walk into the hemp store, and the first thing they do is ask for your ID, which I thank them for, given that I'm 5 years old. Yeah. And then I proceeded to look at all of the different flower that they had that I could buy, anywhere from a bud to an ounce, as well as multiple gummies, beverages that have up to 100 milligrams in them. And it just strikes me, first of all, they were very aggressive with regard to the age gating. So they've been told that they need to do that. So is that complicated? I mean, smoke shops, gas stations that have sold liquor and or tobacco for years have been able to figure out the age gating. So I'm not so sure that that's such a complicated issue that the regulatory scheme should say, well, we can't do it, so we've got to prohibit it completely. So the bottom line is, I'm not sure we're hearing anything different out of Missouri, but it is consistently almost like this, that it seems to be guided by a political desire to say, well, they get to do it and they don't have to do the things that we have to do. Yeah. So let's get rid of that one and go to the dysfunctional marijuana regulatory scheme that has worked for nobody.
You are hitting the nail on the head with that, Gary, because what they should be saying is, hey, you know what? We should be subject to the same regulations that these guys have instead of asking for the more restrictive model for everybody. I agree with that, Gary. That's total asinine backwards, these people. You know, and then they complain about, oh, we're overregulated and da-da-da-da, instead of just saying, hey, you know what? We need to be regulated the same way as hemp. Just simple, easy peasy, child-proof packaging, age gating, COAs, done. End of story. That's it. That's all you need to do. You're already not letting kids into these stores already, so there's no need for this whole advertising to children ridiculousness. You know what I mean? So that's...
I love
but you know, the other thing is the consumers are completely uneducated. I was with my fraternity brothers, and they're like, yeah, it kind of sucks that North Carolina is not a state where you can buy weed. I'm like, what are you talking about? Walk up the street. What do you want?
Yeah.
They got 30 different pre-rolls,
yep.
you know, and about 20 different buds.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but that's Delta 9. I'm like, what are you talking about, Delta 9? What do you think? You know, and it's hilarious. Now, I get that those of us who practice in this area and deal with it, we understand it. But for me I sat there and explained to them what gets you high and what is in these products.
Mm-hmm. Crazy. What were you going to say, Michael?
So a few things, you know, as far as the child-proof packaging and the kid age gating and stuff, I did some research on this recently, you know, experiencing it and dealing with the Florida Department of Agriculture here. But so the statistics show, number one, that, you know, this whole idea, what about the kids? There has been 6% of the total calls in Florida to the Poison Control Center are for cannabis-related items. And they don't know if those are hemp items or they don't know if those are parents' medical marijuana items. They don't distinguish that. They just, we got a call for marijuana. 6% of children under 10 years old. That goes up for teenagers to 7% of total calls to Florida Poison Control. So we're not going after people's makeup. We're not going after dishwashing pods. We're not going after bleach and other things under the sink, which make up still the vast majority of calls to Florida Poison Control. And so to me, it becomes this absolutely ridiculous rhetoric by these politicians who are saying we got to worry about the kids when all of these other substances, it's been since I was a kid, you know, we used to have the commercials on TV when I was younger, like, you know, close your gates, keep your things up, you know, stuff like that, which we don't have anymore. But it's just a serious misrepresentation of what's going on in the society, what's going on with these hemp products. And exactly like Gary said, there's nobody, I don't know, there's no 9-year-old or 10-year-old kid walking into a store and buying cannabis products or hemp products. None. No one under 21. Almost all the smoke shops in Florida are already age gated because tobacco accessories now are 21 plus. I remember I walked in when I was in my 40s, when I was younger. And, you know, they asked me for ID to buy cigarettes. And I'm like, what? I'm like 40. What do you mean? You know, so why is it such a hard problem for them to trust these entities to do the same thing and not treat them the same way? It's total lies and rhetoric that is not based on any sort of facts and circumstances. So I think that's really what needs to get out to the people is to, like, let's look at the numbers when we're talking about age gating. Let's look at why and whether or not these products are actually having any sort of significant impact on children. And the truth is it's not. It's way safer than anything. The kids don't die. They go to the hospital. They pass out for a while. But I haven't seen any serious detrimental effects from it. All is minor to moderate symptoms as a result of ingesting these things that really are parents' responsibility for making sure their children don't get it, especially that under 10 range, you know, which is seemingly the largest amount of calls that they're getting in for.
Do you remember those T-shirts, Michael, that people used to wear that said, "Yeah, but did you die?"
No, I do not.
So
I guess to further what Michael's talking about here is that where is the examples of 10-year-olds going in and buying beer? Where are the examples of people buying cigarettes that they're not supposed to? And if you had a choice and your 10-year-old had to buy something, was allowed to buy something, and it was a cigarette, a beer, or a gummy, I think I'd choose the gummy.
100%.
Yeah.
And never mind the packaging for alcohol. That IPA, Sweetwater, gummies, alcohol to me is like I almost bought it for my son, and I read it closer and closer, and I was like, oh, this is actually alcohol. I had no clue.
Yeah.
When I first saw it on the end cap in Publix. And how about the great announcement? You guys probably spoke about it last week, talking about these drinks. Is that Circle K is going to be carrying them nationwide? It seems
we did cover that
when that hits, and these big companies are getting involved in seeing an increase in sales.
You're right, because another big company that is getting involved is Target. Target's putting them in 17 stores, and so that's another story that we covered last week on here on High 9 News. But that
seems so much smaller now, just in Minnesota versus Circle K saying, "Hey, we're going nationwide with it."
Yep. Oh man, it should be interesting. But we are going to roll right into Mr. Michael Minardi. He's an attorney out in the great red state of Florida who helps cannabis businesses, cannabis individuals, cannabis advocates, and that's right, anyone else that just happens to get busted by Johnny Law. You can find him at his own law office at Minardi Law. It is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi.
Happy good morning to everyone on the East Coast, and happy high noon to everyone on the East Coast, West Coast, East Coast.
Yeah.
It's early in the West Coast. I guess it's still early for me here on the East Coast. So I got an interesting article today, which I've been hoping for forever, is when will U.S. health insurance cover medical cannabis? Healthcare coverage for cannabis treatments is still a distant dream in the United States, but in some states, medical cannabis patients will soon be reimbursed for doctor's visits, cannabis products, and other MMJ-related services via a workaround, one advocacy organization said this week. Participants in recently announced reimbursement program called Elevated States could receive up to $175 per month in reimbursements for medical cannabis and related doctor visits, said Gennaro Luce, CEO of EM2PT, a digital healthcare platform. The potential cost savings for cannabis-centered therapies comes at the same time as steep increases in overall healthcare costs loom amid a squabble in Washington over Obamacare subsidies. Insurance is going to skyrocket this year and next, and these plans are very competitive. Major insurances such as Cigna, Detigo Health, and Invita Health are offering the benefit in some of their healthcare packages in the 38 states where medical marijuana is legal, according to the American Council of Cannabis Medicine, which is administering the arrangement. Doug Benz, a consultant who is a member of ACCM's executive committee, estimates that 15 insurance companies will be part of the program by the time enrollment begins November 1st. The reimbursements will cover for a variety of MMJ-related services, he said. Some will pay for doctor's visits, some will pay for expenses in dispensaries, some for both. Not quite insurance coverage for medical cannabis. Tonight, despite the medical marijuana's wide acceptance in the U.S. and court decisions that have required states to cover cannabis treatment in workers' compensation cases, lingering federal cannabis prohibition means insurers are leery about touching cannabis. That's created difficulties for cannabis patients seeking any kind of help from their insurance providers. The belief that insurance will cover medical marijuana will generate buzz. But to Steph Scherer, founder and president of MMJ Patient Advocacy Group for Americans for Safe Access, the reality doesn't quite match the hype. While some companies are talking about frameworks for reimbursement and employee benefits, there's no actual insurance company currently covering cannabis. What's being marketed as coverage also boils down to employee discount programs, similar to perks like gym memberships or acupuncture discounts. These programs might offer patients who or with cannabis specialists, but they're far from comprehensive coverage many are so hoping for. Workers' compensation programs in a few states have piloted reimbursement models, but they are not indicative of the broader trend. How healthcare could revitalize the medical cannabis market. Any reimbursement for MMJ patients is expected to give much-needed shot in the arm to the medical cannabis industry. The number of medical marijuana patients on average decreases by roughly 1/3 after a market launches recreational sales, according to data from Washington, D.C.-based Marijuana Policy Project. This is going to add a lot of strength to medical cannabis to have big branded insurance companies providing this offering. One medical marijuana provider that signed on to the ACCM EM2P2 platform called Canalytics is Colas, which operated 6 retail shops serving both MMJ patients and recreational consumers in Sacramento, California. MMJ patients account for about 5% of customers of Cola, said Kevin McCarty, the company's compliance director. McCarty projects the number of patients will increase by about 5% when they're also reimbursed for the products. It's going to be a big opportunity, he said. With the strain on the economy and people being tight with funds, being able to be reimbursed for medical cannabis could be a game changer. What about marijuana rescheduling? One of the biggest challenges to true insurance coverage is federal cannabis prohibition. Without clear regulations and measurable standards for doctor-patient insurer relationships, insurance companies are hesitant to step in. Downrating cannabis under federal laws could help break the logjam in Washington, blocking broader marijuana reform. Officially accepting marijuana as medicine as moving cannabis to Schedule III of the Controlled Substance Act would encourage scientific regulatory changes needed for Medicaid, for the Veterans Health Administration to cover MMJ. That in turn could pave the way for private insurers to follow, but in the meantime, practical limitations are limited. There's a lot of people talking about what insurance coverage would look like, but the only place it's happening is in a few states that have home workers' comp reimbursement. While Cher hopes to see insurance coverage for cannabis in the future, she's skeptical that the current players in the market will deliver. For now, she said the focus should remain on integrating cannabis into the broader healthcare system and ensuring that patients, not just businesses, benefit from the progress that's made. People aren't asking what about the patients, people said. But the patients are why we're here. All of those businesses are byproduct of patient advocacy. True medical coverage should save lives and slash cost. The company's announcement of the elevated state's effort comes for just a few weeks after Trump posted his video produced by Commonwealth Project, another MMJ advocacy organization, on his Truth Social site. The video highlighted the endocannabinoid system and the potential benefits of CBD for senior health care and suggested that the U.S. healthcare system would save $64 billion in cannabis is fully integrated into our healthcare system. Not only would covering the cost of medical marijuana save the healthcare system money, but it would also save the lives of at least 50,000 patients a year who are prescribed prescription drugs, said Dr. Mikhail Kogan of the GW Center for Integrated Medicine in Washington, D.C. Kogan points to CBD drug Epidiolex, a pharmaceutical-grade cannabis product used to treat seizures that costs $30,000 per year. Insurance covers Epidiolex for 97% of patients with Dravet syndrome and TSC. In contrast, high-quality CBD from reputable distributors can cost as little as $300 annually. Even if I'm off tenfold and it's $3,000, it's still 10 times cheaper, Kogan said. The steep cost makes medical marijuana inaccessible for many ill patients on Medicaid and fixed incomes, despite its potential to replace costly and dangerous medications. We can leave the infrastructure the way it is and put the burden on the patients, but we'll have an increase in mortality every year. So, what do you think about that? Not only will it save us money, reduce the pharmaceutical companies' hold on our people, but it will also save approximately 50,000 people a year. That is amazing.
Well, I think you just gave all the reasons, Michael, of exactly why it's not going to happen.
Pharma, that's one of them.
Yeah. I would love if cannabis would be covered under insurance. That would be such a great day. But I don't see it happening anytime soon, or at least until you only have single compound type of products, because I just don't see the insurance covering flower-based meds for people. I just don't see that as a reality. But I hope to be proven wrong.
I think most companies don't even cover like massage and stuff like that, any holistic treatments anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I know they don't cover exercise.
Yeah.
Everyone give a gym membership.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe that'll help.
Yeah. Exactly.
Instead of giving you a bottle of or a shot of Ozempic, I'm going to give you a gym membership.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
Like, it's how terrible. Yeah, it's going to take my whole day away. These people, man.
Insurance is a scam.
Gallery.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this, Gary?
Good, unmute. G-Man, you're muted.
You're muted, my man.
You're on mute, Gary. Yep.
I was going to say, I don't ask for what you want, you might get it.
Yeah.
I think that I really don't view cannabis as a medicine. I think it's a wellness product, and I think that the term medicine was applied to it to get it into some states, but
No, that's not why. That's the term medicine was applied to it originally, Gary, because of what it did for the HIV/AIDS community in the Bay Area and Southern California. That's why the word medical went behind there, because it was the only thing that people could have any type of comfort of life, and along with any type of appetite and a whole bunch of other different reasons. That was the whole basis for medical marijuana in the first place.
Well, I guess my point is that that's not inconsistent with the concept that it's a wellness product. The
not at all.
Is, in this country, the word medicine has a very distinctive meaning, and it has to go through FDA trials, and it has to conform to very strict regulatory structure that's been around for a long time. So if you want to put cannabis into that bucket, you're putting it into a bucket where, as you pointed out, Jason, big pharma will just take over. And so I don't necessarily see that is the best thing for the cannabis industry.
So I'm going to time travel back to 1996, and I'm going to beg to say that if it was if wellness marijuana was on the ballot, I don't think it would have passed. I think it needed to be called medical marijuana in the first place in order to get this momentum that we have going. That was
well, and that's exactly that's exactly my point. Is that we use the term medical in order to get it over certain goal lines to move our industry forward.
Yep.
But now that we're here, it's not clear to me that it's best for us to say that we should be in the medicinal bucket.
No,
it's a catch-22. We've covered this many times, and you're right, Jason. I think in the 90s in California, with the stuff that was coming out of the Castro Castle and how that all developed, and you were there.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Perones and other people, Wayne Justman and those people, would have had as much advancement as they did without Prop 215 being a medical thing.
Yeah.
So do you get anywhere without the medical? Probably not. But then on the same token, it shoots us in the foot because it pigeonholes us into this corner that we can't get out of.
Yeah.
Where cannabis is perceived as this product that should be for HIV and for cancer only. And really what we're saying is that we get into the knowledge of us as experts where we're like, well, all use is medical use, meaning that, if you're using it to improve your mood or you're using it for minor pain or whatever you're using it for, it's a medical use in your life. And then we're changing the definition of medical in our own minds. We're changing it to like this hippie definition, where like human beings themselves are medicine. The way you act is medicine, right?
Yeah.
And that stuff's all true, but the normal people in the world don't understand that.
No.
They don't look at themselves as like, oh, my attitude and how I carry myself at work is medicine, which is the way that we kind of are approaching it, but most people don't understand that. So how do we make that translation? And that's where wellness comes in, is that cannabis really is this overarching wellness product as a plant that benefits the body in a gazillion ways.
Yeah.
And we have a very hard time teaching that to people who don't understand.
Yeah, it may be, it's very clear that on a very high dose, it can become a medicinal product. Epidiolex is an example, and the apocryphal stories of folks getting on high dosages, like 1,000 milligrams a day of RSO, helping cancer. That's very different from selling joints so people can get high, but it's the same product. It's just a question of dosage. So
I would even add to that, Gary, and not to cut you off, but just to make sure that we kind of add to that. I've told this story before of a friend of mine who has cerebral palsy, who was convinced to juice raw cannabis, and he literally hadn't walked. He used a walker to get to the bathroom, but it was a painful experience. It took him like 20 minutes to go 10 feet from his bed to his bathroom. And the first day that he juiced raw cannabis, he did about 2 or 3 ounces in a smoothie. He ended up having such a crazy experience of relief that he was able to get up and walk around the block for the first time in like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a medicinal thing that happens with a more fuller spectrum from the acid forms, the THCA and the CBDA, as well as the decarboxylated forms. And we haven't even explored that. And it's not just about dosage, is why I brought this in, it's also about form and which part of the cannabinoids and terpenes you're actually getting and for what.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Well, I think it's definitely a very unique plant in all the different aspects of healing it can give us, right? Mm-hmm. Whether or not it be as a recreational for emotional healing and stress healing, or for a strict, medical issue, curing cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really miraculous plant, and only because of the stereotypes and the stigmas, that we've been dealing with for so long, it's treated as it is. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I think it would be something that everyone should be growing and have access to, for the ability to juice, for an overall health and wellness and preventative measure, for us to have to actually use the current medication and prescription medication, because during the old times, I'm sure that these things were used by tribes and things like that as their medicine, as their properties given by medicine men, mm-hmm. as opposed to doctors and pharmacists. So, interesting plant.
Fair enough. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months.
I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me.
We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
What's up, Colby? Is that Colby? Oh. No worries. Oh, and we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highatnightnews.com.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
Some way that people will get.
Oh, and we are back, you guys. We are back, and we are going to roll right into Mr. Jesse Barney. He's the founder of Barney Design Co., who specializes in branding, marketing, and telling you what your brand is trying to say to its customer. It is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason, for the introduction. I always appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, we have a pretty interesting story, and the hemp haters are cheering on X because this comes straight out of the National Association of Attorneys General, and it's a press release directly from them. 39 state and territory attorneys general call for clarification of federal, quote, hemp, unquote, definition. The National Association of Attorneys General has sent, on behalf of a bipartisan coalition of 39 state and territory attorneys general, a formal letter to congressional leaders urging them to clarify the federal definition of hemp, which bad actors have exploited due to a perceived loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill. In a letter sent to congressional leaders, the coalition urges immediate action to clarify the federal definition of hemp and prevent the continued sale of unregulated intoxicating THC products. Dun, dun, dun. Since the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp-derived THC products, often more potent than marijuana, have flooded the market due to a misinterpretation of the bill's language. These synthetic cannabinoids, including Delta-8, Delta-10, THCO, and others, are being sold in gas stations, convenience stores, and online retailers across the country, frequently in packaging purposefully designed to appeal to children. These products are being manufactured and sold without consistent age restrictions, labeling standards, or safety requirements. In some states, poison control centers have reported alarming increases in pediatric exposures to these substances. The letter was co-sponsored by Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin, imagine that, Connecticut Attorney General William Tong, Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. We even talk about that guy all the time. Attorneys General of the following states and territories joined the bipartisan coalition: Alabama, Arizona, California, Colorado, Delaware, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, as Jason likes to say, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Puerto Rico, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, and Wyoming. Well, the hemp haters all over the nation are rejoicing because this is what they want. I think it's very interesting that there's this coalition of attorneys general that are coming after hemp and the definition and urging this reclassification and clarification of the term hemp and what's underneath it. I personally, there's a lot of hairs to split here because I don't like the synthetic cannabinoids that are created from hemp. There have been too many stories of them hurting people in general. They're not tested. They're not understood. The processes are not tested or understood. even for pros who really know what's going on. The way we arrive at THCO acetate and other things like that, HHC and other super powerful cannabinoids that we're getting out of these conversions, they're not well understood. We don't know what's happening. They're not natural. They don't just exist in the plant. I find there to be problems with that. I do also agree that, these products just being in gas stations and able to be purchased by anyone at any age is really a problem. So I think the industry itself needs to self-regulate. We've warned about this for a long time. I've personally said if we don't self-regulate and stop this from happening, something like this is going to happen, where you're going to have legal repercussions, and this definition is going to get changed, and it's going to be bad for the industry overall. On the other side, I see how hemp being, under the Farm Bill, quote unquote, is a free industry that allows people to make money where it's very difficult in cannabis, and THCA flower and other things are awesome products, and I think they should be available. And I think that the way the hemp industry has gone is a lot more. It's a lot closer to the idealistic way we want the industry to be. So there's a lot there to unpack. I think there's even more, but I'll let everybody else toss it back and forth and see what everybody has to say.
Well, it's always great, about cannabis as it is advancing, that prohibitionists are always going to reveal themselves, Jesse.
Yeah.
And that's what these gentlemen did with this letter, is just show themselves out there as being, as being prohibitionists. To me, like, to me, this letter is kind of a waste of time for them to do this. Like, I don't think they really expect anything to get done, or if they do, they think that they have too much power mentally in their mind. But this is just total ridiculous. The Farm Bill is probably one of the greatest bills that we got in relation to this. And these guys are trying to say, oh, it's a loophole, but it's not a loophole. That was the intent of the law. And so, we need to open it up. It's all part of about make America healthy again, make America great again, by allowing for cannabis to be able to be sold like this. And so this is just, people just need to get over themselves.
Well, I can't say that, I've partaken in many conversations on X with a bunch of, what end up being termed as hemp haters.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. They're so angry.
They are.
And they seem bitter. They seem angry. They seem like they have a chip on their shoulder. I don't really understand that, other than they've been in the cannabis industry for a long time and they feel like they're missing out. And there's some bitterness on that front. And it's like, well, dude, just pivot.
Just hop in.
Jump in on the hemp brands.
If you can't beat them, join them. If you can't beat them, join them, Jesse.
Yeah, exactly. And that part is distressing to me in a way. It's like, why are you being so antagonistic and so bitter and so angry and attacking your fellow cannabis family and people who you all should be on the same side and figuring out how to make hemp work rather than attacking it and trying to, because that's the weird part, is behind this bill, there's a lot of people who are in the cannabis industry who are happy about this. Or not bill, but this asking for the Congress to actually clarify the term. And I find that problematic.
What do you got to say, Michael? I saw you trying to talk, but you were on mute.
Yeah. I think that most of the people that are the haters are the legal cannabis sellers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Business.
Yeah, they are. They've been in the industry for a long time.
And then still the Drug Free America people and the Sam's Project and stuff like that. And I think anyone else is just misinformed. They don't even really know what they're talking about when you talk to most people. And same thing, you get those questions, where can I get this? Or you can go to anywhere to get it. These, especially the drinks in Florida, right? All the shops sell them. But I just think it's a lack of education, and it's this continued, stereotype and belief that it's the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous. Any thoughts on this, Gary?
Well, yeah, I do actually.
Yeah.
I was invited right after COVID to fly out to Maui to address the AGs at their annual convention about intoxicating hemp-derived cannabinoids. And what I found at the time was that they completely had no information or understanding of what and at that time, it was all focused on like Delta 8. But I do believe the AGs come at this not so much as prohibitionists as they do on what are we supposed to do about this, because they have an obligation to enforce laws, and they don't know how to enforce laws that are supposedly legal, but then other people are claiming are hurting people, and they're getting disinformation about unsafety and stuff. So I think the AG's writing something like this is not all that surprising, and I don't think they have an agenda for prohibition as much as clarity so they can not be criticized for not busting people for doing something that they don't know whether it's legal or not legal, because they don't understand the difference. So
that's
I think
a great point.
I think that's kind of what's going on with the AGs. And I don't disagree with you, Jesse, on synthetics, although I'm not sure I know what that even means, since a number of products in the cannabis, meaning marijuana industry, are synthetically derived, and there are no regulations concerning how they do it, yet they're not called unsafe.
What do you mean by that? Like what kind of products?
Well, I'm just saying that in an extraction facility, I'm convinced that there are similar processes going on that have no particular state regulatory scheme attached to them. And I'm not saying that's correct, but what I'm saying is there's an assumption that every product that's made by a hemp extractor is unsafe because there are no regulatory mandates on how they're supposed to do it. But there are no mandates on how they're supposed to do it. What they're not supposed to do is operate in non-best practice, non-CGMP processes. And that does go on. And I agree with you that THCO, HHC, THCJD, and all these crazy things are unnecessary, and they are not helping us with our message.
That's very, very. I agree with that, Gary.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the key, Gary. And I think the difference, what's happening on the cannabis side in extraction facilities is there's at least a modicum of transparency of what's going on, and most people understand the processes and how they're arriving at those products, whatever they are. The problem with HHC and THCO and THCV and on and on and on it goes is we don't understand, and there is no transparency in how this is happening and how these things are being made and how they're arriving at these products and the results of them and what they do. We literally know nothing. But they're prevalent. I mean, I can go right here. Anyone in the country can basically go to any gas station, pick up one of these products, and there's a lot of adverse reactions and stories and anecdotes that are coming out. And there's no science behind that, and there is a lot of stories that are bad, and that's just bad for cannabis in general, because then it harms the whole industry, and it creates more stigma, and we don't need more stigma, right? No. So you have these hemp operators, and this is where I kind of understand the hemp haters' side, is you have these hemp operators that are just out there in the Wild West just doing whatever they want so they can make really fast money.
But hold on, Jesse. I'm going to push back on that a second.
It creates, when they create these things and they create these stories, it creates more stigma, and that's not good.
If they're going to be mad at them, then they need to be mad at all the trappers that are trapping and buying all the pounds off of metric and everything else like that. But they're not. They're all doing the same thing. No, they're not, Jesse. They're all doing the same thing. Stop that. They're all doing. They're all trapping too and everything like that. So yeah, that's the pot calling the kettle black is total bullshit.
No, I get that. I'm not saying that's not the pot calling the kettle black.
Okay.
And
as long as we're living in reality.
I think there's a fair point there, regardless of if there's hypocrisy underneath it. Yeah, sure. There's probably hypocrisy underneath it, but that doesn't mean the point is wrong, right? That would be a logical fallacy to say because there's hypocrisy involved that the point isn't correct. The point can be correct, and there can be hypocrisy involved. So, and that's where I can see their side. Like, okay, yes, there's something over here that's not great, and it is creating stigma.
Well, and
Dude,
again,
when somebody smokes THCO and has a seizure or whatever the hell is happening, and then there's this story that goes out, that creates stigma against cannabis, and that's not good. Well, in the same way that the trap and the things that go along with the trap, I mean, if you're selling weed in the trap and you're putting cocaine and prostitution and other things right alongside of it, because now it's all on the black market, and so it all goes together, yeah, that creates stigma too. And so if you're participating in that and you also have a cannabis dispensary, well, yeah, you're a hypocrite, and you're creating stigma as well.
Jesse, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
What's greater, stigma 1, stigma 2, or stigma 3?
I don't know. Is there a joke in there I'm missing?
On that,
You're trying to suggest that blowing hookers are a problem? I mean,
that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying, bro.
No, I mean, no. Again, I don't think that those things per se are problems, but I do think that them being sold in an illicit market is a problem. I think that I'm a libertarian, so I think those things should be legalized. And if they were legalized, then it eliminates a lot of problems that illicit markets create. So I think prostitution
if they were legalized, they wouldn't necessarily, unless they're regulated. And that's a good point, is that if you regulate how you make cocaine, and if you regulate how what prostitutes, what kind of cleanliness they have to go through or whatever, yes, maybe, but that's not going to happen. And the problem is that like you've said, that people are going to the extreme, as they always do, to capture consumers by creating products that aren't necessary. And then you have the phenomena that we see is that regulators and regulation and legislation are an elephant gun shooting a flea. That's like the AG letter, to get back to the beginning of this. Rather than calling for regulation, calling for age gating and testing and COAing, etc., let's just get rid of it.
Yep.
That's enough.
Which is something that they've never been able to enforce, and it just gives them the power to be able to have asset forfeiture, to do cash grabs, and that's all that they're trying to advocate for, is for asset forfeiture by sending letters like that.
Give me some rules and I'll enforce them, but if you're not going to give me rules, get rid of it so I can just say it's not legal.
Exactly. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we're going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
We are back, you guys. We are back, and we're going to roll right into Mr. Gary Kaminsky. Gary is a regulatory compliance attorney with over 39 years of experience working in highly regulated industries. For the past 10 years, Gary has focused his practice on the cannabis and marijuana and hemp space, advising public, multi-state operators, hemp beverage manufacturers, and other participants in the cannabis supply chain. Prior to that, Gary was an SEC enforcement attorney, in-house counsel, and proprietary trading firms, broker-dealers, and principal at several hedge funds. Gary's expertise in developing, implementing, and maintaining regulatory expertise, risk management systems to mitigate lapses that can cause disruption to clients' businesses. It is none other than Mr. Gary Kaminsky.
Hello. Hello. So the Supreme Court's decision that we referenced earlier today is going to have a big impact on a lawsuit that's going on here in Florida. After they said that they'll hear a case focused on the same federal law, a judge Thursday put a hold on a long-running lawsuit about whether Florida medical marijuana patients can be barred from having guns. Chief U.S. District Judge Alan Windsor issued a stay of the Florida lawsuit until after the Supreme Court decides whether a law prohibiting drug users having guns violates the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court on Monday announced it will take up a Texas case known as the U.S. versus Hermani that focuses on the law. In a motion seeking the stay of the Florida case, U.S. Department of Justice attorneys wrote that the Supreme Court decision in the Hermani case will almost certainly have a significant impact on the Florida lawsuit. The court should stay this case because the Supreme Court is currently hearing a case concerning the constitutionality of the same statutory provision at issue in this case, Justice Department attorneys wrote. The Florida lawsuit filed in 2022 is rooted in a conflict between federal and state laws. Under federal law, possession of marijuana is illegal. Under a 2016 Florida constitutional amendment, hundreds of thousands of patients are able to buy medical marijuana. Federal law at issue bars possession of firearms by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to any controlled substance. The Florida and Texas case centers on whether that prohibition violates the Second Amendment. In this Florida case, plaintiffs allege that they either use or wish to use marijuana pursuant to Florida's medical marijuana laws, said the Justice Department's motion, which was filed. Plaintiffs also allegedly wish to possess firearms while being regular users of marijuana, but are prohibited from doing so by the federal law. Plaintiffs seek a declaration that the federal law and its implementing regulations violate the Second Amendment as applied to their conduct, and an injunction preventing the government from enforcing the law and its implementing. And it goes on. I get it makes a lot of sense because I do agree that it's the same issue, not a very similar issue. And it's not unlike a lot of issues we have where the FDA has said that infusing any cannabinoid into food or beverage is unlawful under the FD&C Act.
It's crazy.
And yet in every state where it's legal, it's being done. And so it's confusing. And I do believe something as fundamental as the Second Amendment and the gun rights, you need to clarify. And that's why I'm sure the court is taking this up. Plus, they're very pro gun rights. So I do think that this makes a lot of sense to stay the case. It's something that's going on in other states as well, and let's resolve this. I mean, again, we talked about this I think last week, where I mean, you're not prohibited from owning a gun if you're a heavy alcohol drinker. I know that. So I'm not following why there's a blanket ban, although I do understand that the laws are inconsistent, which is generally when you I lost my video, but I'll be back. Is generally when you see the Supreme Court take up cases. So it makes sense that they're doing this.
What do you got to say about this, Michael?
He must be muted.
Oh, you're on mute, Mike. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yes.
I don't really know. I mean, hopefully that something gets done and they create some sort of, standard for this. And it's very interesting because what if people have hemp products versus marijuana products versus being a patient? Now they're not considered, illegal to possess it. So I think this has so many different avenues it can go. But the number one thing that has to adhere to, I think, is people being able to protect their rights and shouldn't lose their rights because they're a patient or using a substance that is benign and safe compared to alcohol and so many other prescription medications that are not a problem for someone to have a weapon and to use these. So
interesting. I mean, so to my understanding, I mean, they're just putting a pause until there's some further type of further type of judgments that get handed down from a higher court, which I think that makes sense. I'm not mad at that decision, and I think that's overall I think they're ultimately are preparing for the inevitable, because then they're not going to be able to just deny people anymore because of that. Ultimately, after
if they actually heard the case and ruled it in a way that a month from now is overruled by the Supreme Court, you'd be wasting a lot of people's time and money.
Yep. Exactly right.
Well, but the interesting thing is, in the way that I don't see, the way that I read the stuff on the Supreme Court cases, none of those people were like legal patients under state law. They were just people carrying what would otherwise, even in Florida, be considered illegal marijuana and a crime. So I think that there are, and there should be, differences between those two things. And kind of like in the Knopfsinger employment law case and things like that, they said that the federal law won't stand in the way of states having, protections for employees who use cannabis. So I think the same thing should sort of be applied in this type of situation, where it is a distinguishing factor that someone is actually legally possessing a substance and using it through a doctor's recommendation versus someone who is illegally possessing it, which I think they could come up with the same answers that they have a right to, and it's not something that they would have categorically disarmed someone for. But I think that there are kind of different questions that we should be asking related to, and same thing with the employee cases that we're dealing with. If someone has a medical marijuana card, now they have a legal justification for that in their system. If someone doesn't have a medical marijuana card and is a patient and they test positive, now they're using it illegally. So I think those kind of distinguishing factors aren't related in this federal Supreme Court case. And so I think that, the 11th Circuit and the medical marijuana patient case should track separately than those.
Interesting.
Isn't the case about having actually using the product and having that in your system when you have the gun?
No.
So whether you
No, it's not. No. No.
And I actually haven't seen any of them in the country on that, because I did brief this for the Florida Supreme Court a few years ago in regards to my Department of Corrections worker, and it was all people that were arrested in some legal, some not legal states for this, and they just applied the old adage rule of, were these people disarmed for possessing it in the past? And obviously there's a conflict among the federal circuits related to this, but I haven't seen any case where the person has been in Florida. If a person is arrested with a gun and they're a medical marijuana patient, and we have had a couple people arrested, but usually they end up dismissing it and giving the weapon back and stuff like that. But that cop on the scene is like, oh, this is still illegal to me. But most of the prosecutors have understood that it's no longer an illegal substance and no longer even a controlled substance as a medical marijuana patient to possess marijuana. So, I
guess what I meant was, I think you touched upon this. What I meant was, if you're carrying hemp, they have no way of knowing, and that I guess the concept of the law has to be that we don't want to have people who are addicted to a controlled substance or smoking a controlled substance to have a gun, and substance is the same.
If that's the case, then at the same time, they need to enforce this on all the people that they prescribe all this prescription medicine to at the same time, because those are all controlled substances as well. Just saying.
Well, and the ironic thing, when we're talking about hemp, it's not a controlled substance.
Oh, it is not.
Hemp is not a controlled substance, and you're right, Mr. Minardi. At the end of the day, it's all THCA. You know what I'm saying? And on that, I have a very funny story to end the show out with you guys today. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this, and especially since you guys are both attorneys, I think you guys are going to enjoy this even more, because there was marijuana by mail, and there was a $50,000 prank, or on purpose, you guys, because the Oklahoma City law firm receives a box of marijuana worth about $50,000 in the mail, and this is the second time it happened in 4 years. In a quote, "So we opened it up, and it was 10 pounds of pot. said Noble McInerney, a senior partner at McInerney law firm, of the box filled with marijuana that came regular mail on Friday. McInerney said after doing a ChatGPT search, he learned the street value of the marijuana was worth about $50,000, he said. And he said the vacuum sealed contents stuck up his office once they opened it. I'm going to quote, "First thing we did was call the police to make a report," said McIntyre. And he said this is the second time it has happened in 4 years. He added the first time the office received a box, he contacted a local postal inspector, but he never heard back from them. And McInerney says that this time he contacted a friend of his who is an Oklahoma City police officer. He said when the police came to pick up the box filled with marijuana, they were shocked he was turning it in. And in a quote, he says, "I think the concern most people would either do it for personal consumption or there's value there. They might be able to sell it," said McIntyre. While he's not certain, McIntyre said there could be many different reasons as to why the marijuana was shipped to him specifically with no return address on the box. And he said as a personal injury attorney, he goes up against many insurance companies involving multi-millions. And he adds they do this as a way of blackmail. And McIntyre said, "Send me an illegal shipment of drugs for which I'm not going to report, they would presume, and then later at some point let me know that they know that and use that as leverage." He said another criminal element is someone looking for a third party as a drop point for their drugs. And in a quote says, "They ship it to a law firm, let a few weeks go by, and then show up and say, 'You've committed a felony.' Where are my drugs?" said McIntyre. According to the U.S. Postal Service, some hemp-based products can be sent through the mail through the U.S. and its territories by following the proper guidelines. And a cannabis-delivered substance with a 0.3% content of THC or less is legal hemp. McIntyre said if this happens a third time, his next phone call will be to Homeland Security, you guys. Oh, man. Oh, I love this story, and I just wonder if this box was actually meant for Andrew Kramer, and only some of you will get that joke, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Man, you guys ever get any boxes at your law firm? You know, it is Christmas time coming up, you guys. It's about to be the holidays, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no such luck here.
No, no such luck. I mean, I wonder if... Oh, please go ahead, Gary.
My understanding is that if you are going to ship a cannabis product through the mails, that USPS is the optimal way to do that.
Oh, and this is not legal advice in any way whatsoever.
Hardly.
Well, yeah. It is partly. There was a case, UAB versus the United States Postal Service, probably about 2018 or so, was against the administrative judge and the U.S. Postal Service, and they did find that because they're no longer controlled substances, hemp products could be shipped. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to have a letter from the person shipping it, stating what it is, the test results in there, and the licensing. Mm-hmm. And then I've had a couple. Actually, one of the clients that I have right now in criminal case was actually arrested in part, and he's being charged with importation into the state of a package that actually went through and was approved by USPS. They pulled it out of the mail process. They looked at the documents, and then they shipped it on to my client. And he got arrested for receiving that package.
That's entrapment.
USPS.
That's entrapment.
Yep.
That's entrapment right there.
It's very interesting. And so realistically, the biggest problem with all these cases is the testing, right? So most law enforcement, all the law enforcement agencies in Florida use a GCMS, which converts the THCA to Delta 9. So they get a false positive of it being over 1% for Delta 9 THC. And the roadside testing is absolute junk they use. I have a client, we bought a bunch of them, and he tested his D8, he tested his THCP, and all these things are testing hot for illegal marijuana as opposed to, under the 0.3 threshold, because those tests, realistically, from my research, do not test actual percentage. They test a ratio of CBD to THC in the product.
Well, I mean, even more so, right, Mike, is that That's not legislated. The test has to happen 30 days before harvest. All the THCA that we're seeing around miraculously is in the 20s. I mean, in Chapel Hill yesterday, they had pre-rolls at 29% THCA. That is legal if, in fact, it had tested below that, like before it was harvested.
See what I'm saying? It's all THCA, you guys. It's what it all is.
Well, and that becomes the, decarboxylation situation as to whether or not it needs to be prior to testing versus when you get THCA at
final product stage. And I think that if they amend the Farm Bill, that's what they're going to amend it to reflect. I think they're going to carve out, things for beverages, for instance. At least that's my understanding. Let's hope.
I don't think there's going to be any edits to the Farm Bill. I'm not anticipating anything.
Not right now.
Well, no.
Right
Period.
now,
Period. From when I talk to, I have some agricultural specialists out in D.C. that I talk to that are also Supreme Court attorneys, and they have told me that there is no motion and no movement on any type of reiteration of a Farm Bill. That's just not happening anytime soon.
I don't think it will either. I think the pro hemp people are putting in enough resources to fight it and kill it.
And not to mention, there's too many Congress people who have their fingers in legal hemp, and that's probably what's really going on behind the scenes there.
No.
You guys have missed the funniest part of this story.
I was about to go to that, Jesse, but please go ahead.
Where in the world are 10 pounds of weed worth $50,000?
I was just.
Are they bringing this to Dubai? What's happening?
The funniest part is that it's in Oklahoma. You know what I mean? And,
exactly.
And not to mention that, but he said he went on ChatGPT to figure out that valuation. Now that to me is the funniest part of it all. Yeah, he said that's what it says. ChatGPT. He went to ChatGPT to find out what the valuation.
He went to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT came up with 1989 numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
From like what?
So obviously, there's not enough people that are typing in what the value of cannabis is into ChatGPT to actually let it know what the actual market rate is.
Yeah, but you would think ChatGPT would look at all the sources and how much it's being sold for.
Well, no, because
determine that. But
no, Michael, you no, that's why it came up with such a high number, because the only thing that it sees is all the cop math.
It should be seeing. I mean,
it's not going to see revaluations. There's like show me one publication,
and
there's only one publication that we've seen that we've ever covered on this entirety of this show that actually had realistic numbers associated with it. Everything else that we've ever covered in the entirety of this show has all been cop math.
You were cutting out like crazy, dude.
No way.
I can't.
Not to everybody else. Not to everyone else.
I know the audience hears you, but we don't.
I'm sorry, you guys.
There we go.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But weed don't.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, on this was a fun story. We got to wrap this thing up. But thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and Cloud Media partners Elias and Gabriel are somewhere out there in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.